We put the tennis racket down and we pick up a basketball as we change sports 8 minutes after 10. Brett Phillips still with you this morning, certainly in tennis mode, but keeping an eye on all the other sport that is going on. Plenty to talk about in the NBL. We've had a couple of results in round 14 this weekend so far, and a couple of big games coming up today between Adelaide and Sydney. Boy, do the 36ers need a win. And the Perth Wildcats, a tough road trip for the Melbourne Tigers. A defining day. If the Tigers can go and knock over the Wildcats at the beautiful Perth Arena, then we might be genuinely talking about them as a real potential finalists, particularly with Wollongong stumbling at the moment, having lost their last four, sitting in fourth spot. We'll have a chat to Cam Tragardh, former Melbourne Tiger, very shortly, who's, of course, playing for the Cairns Taipans. They had a great victory in overtime at Wollongong on Friday night, so we'll have a chat to Trigger a little bit later on. Tony Jackson, CEO of the Canberra Capitals. When we think of successful clubs in the WNBL, well, Canberra have been just that. I think, 7 of the last 11 or 12 WNBL titles they have won, but they are really struggling at the moment without Lauren Jackson, of course, who's been ruled out for the remainder of the WNBL season, which is disappointing. And a lot of young girls up there now getting some game time. Carrie Graff, the Opals coach, a real challenge for her. And Canberra did beat West Coast overnight, but lost to Adelaide as part of the South Australian WA swing, and had lost 8 games in succession before knocking over the Waves. So we'll have a chat to Tony Jackson to see what is happening up there in Canberra. We'll talk some NBA as well, as the season just keeps ticking along. Games day in, day out. So that coming up a little bit later on as well. But great to welcome Paul Henderson from hoopdiary.com. We've had him on the phone a couple of times, but nice to see you in the studio.
Thanks for having me today. I appreciate it.
Tell us a bit about Hoop Diary for those that haven't come across your website, Paul.
Yeah, it's just a basic basketball blog. I mean, we started it up a couple of years ago, and we sort of try and cover as much as we can within the time limits. It's not a paid job, but a bit of a labour of love. But we cover the NBL, the NBA, obviously, and a little bit of the Siebel when that's on as well.
I actually noticed, I was having a look this morning, and this might be going back a week or so, but you were talking about the NBL TV and looking at the positives and negatives of that, and having done the radio for the NBL last year, I can certainly see the sense in bringing in NBL TV because every game is covered, and obviously there have been a few little teething problems, but I reckon, and I agree with what you've written on the website here, and I paid the subscription. I think it was it $79 I think I paid?
Yeah, it was an early bird, I think at about 60 or thereabouts, but yeah.
Something like that, and for the whole season, to be able to sit there and go back and watch, full, watch them live, obviously, or watch full replays, highlights, have a look at press conferences. It's been a great initiative by the NBL, and obviously they'll tinker with it and then keep improving it.
Yeah, look, I mean, like anything that comes in, it's going to have its teething problems to start with, and I think basically the hoops community have sort of been split. I think some people are probably a little bit hard on it in terms of wanting the best straight away. But the guys at NBL TV, they seem to be pretty open to feedback, and their Twitter account, their Facebook page is always updated, and they do reply to people. So I think they are working on it, but like you say, the article sort of points out a few positives, but also alerts them to the negatives as well, because I think it's worthwhile to do that.
Well, the one thing you've got to have, though, is a good internet connection. You can't have the old dial-up because you'll get extremely frustrated with buffering. I'm lucky at home. I've got about, I think, 100 gigs, and you can sit there and watch it and have it on the large screen, and it's fantastic for a couple of hours. But you do have to have a good connection for any live stream. I do a lot of work for Tennis Australia, who do live streaming extremely well, and it is world class, but you've got to have a good connection.
Yeah, you've got to have a good connection, and you have to have a decent amount of data allowance as well. Some people can sort of run into trouble running out. Absolutely.
Hoopdiary.com if you want to take a look at Paul's website. Plenty of blogging there, and all sorts of topics being talked about from the NBA, the NBL. Talk some NBA a little bit later on. Well, there's only one man who's pumped up for the Perth Wildcats. It's James Royce, our newsreader during the week here on SEN, who's just sent us a little text. So he's firmly got the red shirt on. Barracking for the Wildcats. Tough one for the Tigers. I mean, it's a defining day, isn't it, to go over there, brand new Perth Arena. They've been getting outstanding crowds, the Wildcats, 11, 12,000 over there. They've taken that to a whole new level, and it is one of the toughest venues to go and win.
Yeah, look, Perth are the benchmark, I guess, in terms of attendance, marketing, I would say, the whole package. I mean, they're really, really crazy for their hoops over there. And while pretty much everyone in Melbourne, it's the arch enemy, Perth. It certainly is mine. I get into them a little bit on social media, but you got to respect the way they do it. And if the Tigers can win this game, it could really springboard them. I wrote a couple of weeks ago that sort of goodbye 2012, hello playoffs, and a few people sort of gave me a bit of a ribbing about that, but it's pretty even. The second half, anyone's got a chance.
Not much in it, particularly Townsville, who I think lost their first 9, which is
10.
First 10. There you go, extraordinary. Are now 5-11, so they're sort of back in the mix. Adelaide are on this horrendous losing streak at the moment, and Marty Clark's future's been discussed over there, and there have been little whispers around that maybe Trevor Gleeson, the former Melbourne Tigers coach, has been in talks with Adelaide. Behind closed doors. Cairns getting a big win, and we're going to chat with Trigger in just a minute. They're 5-10, but they've been right up there and haven't been able to put it together totally, and the Tigers just on the verge. So it looks like there's maybe one spot, unless the Kings are going to fall away, but there are signs there that they're a pretty hardened team under Shane Heal who are going to be right in the mix. Yeah,
the Kings have been really surprising, probably not to the Kings. I think they've been pretty confident from day one. I think a lot of people, though, would have picked the Kings to be in the bottom 2, if not the bottom 1, and they're quite impressive at 10-7. Just a bit of a example, I guess, of how even the competition is. Cairns, we'll talk about the games in a moment, but Cairns get a big win, and people are talking about they've saved their season, whereas if they'd lost that, it would have been like, well, it's all over.
Yep.
So one game can really swing it, and it's very close.
Let's go back to Friday night as we introduce Cam Tragardh about to join us. Extraordinary game. Cairns 94, Wollongong 81. They were 10 points up, Cairns, at quarter time. They were outplayed 48-27 in the second and third quarters, and then came home to take it to overtime, 26-15 in the last quarter. And Alex Loughton saved the day for Cairns. He hit a big shot, setting the team up to go into overtime. Let's take a listen.
Cairns get the ball inbound.
And good play. They started to go.
There it is. Loughton for 3. Drills it. He drills it. Alex Loughton with another big shot. One big shot after another in this game. 8 straight points for Cairns to get themselves back on top. Wollongong have hit big shots. Cairns have hit big shots. Wollongong now back to Cairns. Alex Loughton with a dagger.
Steve Corofino, he captures the moment well, and this is how the game ended. When they went into overtime, it was dominated by the Taipans, who walked away with the win.
Wilson,
This is a blowout now.
goes up for the jam. Just puts the icing on the cake. And an unbelievable turnaround. Cairns get this thing done in overtime. 94-81.
Ran away with it in the end, thanks to Channel 10, and the voice there is Steve Carfino, and a very happy Cam Tragardh, who, of course, transferred from the Tigers to the Taipans over the NBL off-season. He joins us here on In the Paint. Cameron, good to talk to you again.
Yeah, same to you, boys. Thanks for having me.
It must feel good as a team any time you go on the road and win a game, because it's tough in the NBL. You've got to cover a few miles from New Zealand, going across to Perth. Obviously, for teams to come to far north Queensland, you've been on the other side of that, Cam, but I imagine a really special feeling to knock over the Hawks, who have had, obviously, a terrific season.
Yeah, no, definitely, mate. And such a huge win in the context of our season to sort of build something to start turning it around. But, yeah, road wins very rare, and they're a fantastic feeling. When you stay in Wollongong, you actually stay walking distance to the stadium. So when you go down there and get flogged, you've got to walk back amongst the fans back to your hotel. So when you beat them, you got a bit of extra pep in your step, and they're all sad and dejected. It's a fantastic feeling.
Oh, imagine just getting them on the way out. A game of fluctuations. We know basketball's often a game of runs, but just looking at the scoreline through this game, Cam, great start. And then the middle part of the game, Wollongong were able to really get on top, and you've come home with the wet sail and then absolutely dominated overtime. I don't think I've seen a scoreline like that.
Well, to tell you the truth, the feeling in the game was almost that the game was over. I mean, with a few minutes to go, I think we were down 7, I think, and it just had that feeling like we had no answers. I know we were trying real hard, but it just seemed everything we did, we couldn't catch a break, and then Aaron Grabeau just went Reggie Miller on them and drained 8 points in 7 seconds, and we went from 7 down to 1 up, and yeah, we've come home with a wet sail.
G'day, Cam. Paul from Hoop Diary, mate. How are you?
Oh, Paul, I'm very well, mate.
That's
Thanks.
Just a question in regards to the young guys on your team, because you do have a very young squad, and at moments during the season there's sort of been real opportunities to develop. What does winning a game by 13 in an overtime period sort of do for those guys and their confidence?
Yeah, no, it's massive for them, especially guys like Cam Glidden, who played a huge part in it. You know, he hit a couple of big dagger threes and a nice little elbow jumper there. So to go into a hostile environment like Wollongong, and it has changed over the years. Their fans really get stuck in there, and for him to stand up like that, it can only do his confidence a world of good.
And just coming into the Cairns team, Cam, this year from the Tigers, and you came into a team that certainly was renowned as a very good defensive team under Aaron Fern the last few years. Obviously, teams are always trying to find that balance between defending and scoring enough points to win games. How have you looked at the year? Because obviously, the Taipans have been one of the hugely improved teams over the last 2 or 3 years and made that grand final series against New Zealand. But gee, it's tough competition, and you can go back the other way pretty quickly, can't you?
Oh, certainly, mate. We found that out the hard way, and we are a defensive team, and we put a lot of effort and a lot of work into that. And sometimes we struggle to keep that scoreboard ticking over a little bit, and it's hurt us. And we've a lot of the games we've kept teams. I think we kept the Breakers to 66 points. They're the best side in the comp. We've kept teams to very winnable margins, but we haven't been able to get that scoreboard going enough in our favour. So. Yeah, we've got a little bit of work to do at the offensive end, get a bit of flow and rhythm and a bit of mojo there. But, we're not happy with how we're going, but it was a big win and a step in the right direction.
And can you talk to us about Jamal Wilson, import point guard? I mean, he's had a few ups and downs this season, but, I mean, he was instrumental in the win in Wollongong.
Yeah, he was. I mean, the 8 assists is huge. Everyone knows he's going to score, and I think all the teams know that too. So they're starting to collapse on him, and he's starting to make really great decisions out of that double team. And when he beats his man and comes to the next guy, he's really making the right plays. So if he can be up around that 8 assist mark each game, I think we'll be a different animal and we'll be tough to beat.
And Cam, coming from, and you played at a few clubs, coming from a cap city here, Melbourne, sporting capital, huge market, you go to a place like Cairns, and I've been up there many a times, the Cairns Post, all over the Taipans. I mean, it's Cairns' only national team, so you obviously get great support, 5,500 regularly going to the Cairns Convention Centre, and they make plenty of noise. The Orange Army, but just the comparison of going to a smaller place where perhaps there's more focus on the team up there.
Yeah, no, it's absolute chalk and cheese. The comparison is just totally different, and both good in their own way. But up here, it's we just got that fantastic support in the media, in the paper and on TV. I mean, we've lost 4 in a row, I think 7 of 8, and the media they don't turn on us like they have in other cities, because we do so much great work in the community. We're in hospitals, in the schools every week, at the library, hanging with the kids and stuff, reading stories, and I think that really helps us when we're struggling on the court. The media goes quite easy on us because of that good off-court work we do, and we're in the community, we're bonding with the fans, and I think they really appreciate that. And so when you're 5-10 in a place like this, it's not quite as bad. But I remember being 5-10 in Melbourne, and you're sitting in the owner's office, and he's yelling and screaming at you. So it's a little bit different up here.
Yep.
With regards to the coach, Mr. Fern, can you tell us a little bit about his persona? I mean, a lot of the Melbourne basketball fans who may not have seen him in person, he looks pretty intense, and I guess most head coaches are, but can you give us a little insight into him and how he goes about it?
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Fernie's. He's just an absolute basketball junkie. If you get called into his office for a 5-minute meeting, it's never going to be a 5-minute meeting. You'll just end up talking hoops all day, and I love talking hoops as well, NBL, NBA, whatever. So you can just see his passion for it. He's always trying to get better as a coach, put little bits and pieces in from things he sees. And no, I think he's great for our group and great for the city.
Cam, I've been trying to work out his accent for the last 3 or 4 years, because he's got a unique sort of twang.
Yeah, no, it's I think it's part Kiwi, part Aussie, part American. It's a bowl of soup, You don't quite know what it is. There's a little bit of taste of everything in there, but you can't quite tell what it is.
So just looking at the table, I mean, the Breakers, once again, the standout team, the Wildcats, I mean, they've both been in that top 2 posies the last couple of years. The Kings, I suppose, a surprise maybe a few of us. Wollongong, with relatively the same roster, getting back up there as a contender again, and this little logjam of teams. How are you looking at the competition overall, and who do you rate as the teams that, obviously the top two are tough. But, I mean, is it just the top two, or where do you draw the line in terms of teams that could possibly win the title?
I think everyone can win it at the moment, and maybe everyone bar one team could win it at the moment. I think Perth and the Breakers, obviously they're out in front in a pack by themselves. I think Sydney are the next step down from that, and they're in a little group by themselves. They're playing some pretty good ball. After that, I mean, you hate to see it, but it looked like a pretty serious knee injury to Reece Martin from the Hawks, who's just been absolutely fantastic all year, and I can't help but feel if he goes down, they're done and dusted. Like, I can't see them without him, just because he's been so good, and he's the head of the beast. And I think a lot of teams are licking their lips right now. That bottom four that looked out of it, I mean, that's a playoff spot that's up for grabs, and Wollongong better believe that all four of us, the teams, are coming for it.
Yeah, plenty of basketball left in the season, and a chance for a lot of teams to get on a run. Cam, good to catch up with you again. It's a good environment up there in Cairns. I've been there a couple of times, and I've walked out deafened. I feel like I've been in a nightclub up there at the Cairns Convention Centre. So let's hope a few more good wins on the road, and you're always tough to beat at home, and who knows what might happen in the last few weeks of the season.
No, thanks a lot for having me, boys. Appreciate it.
Cameron Tragardh, who did join us a few times last season in the studio when he was a Melbourne Tiger, of course, transferring to the Cairns Taipans over the off-season. The other result, of course, of this round, Paul, the Breakers, 82, defeating Townsville 78. And, gee, I'll tell you what, they're going to be tough to beat. They are a star-studded team, the Breakers.
Yeah, they're the champions for a reason, and just when you think that they may have lost a step, or the excuses start to come out that their lineup's changed a little bit, etc., then they pull out these sorts of performances where you think they're gone, and they come back and just still get the job done. So I admittedly didn't watch a lot of this game because I was stuck on the Hawks Taipans game on NBL TV, as you were mentioning. But the Crocs had this, right under control. Pretty close to the final change before they let a few points in right at the death there, and then Tom Abercrombie just took it to him in the final stages. He's a
star.
He did the job right at the end, yeah.
Is there a man that climbs higher upstairs than Tom Abercrombie, because he just gets tall, like the Eiffel Tower when he gets up there?
Yeah, look, the dunk contest this year at the All-Star game, although unfortunately the fans didn't see a great deal of it, but those guys that were in that, Abercrombie, Benny Lewis, Lucas Walker, and Lance Hurdle are high flyers.
Absolute ripper. 2 games today. Let's get your quick thoughts. Adelaide and Sydney. The 36ers can't buy a win. The Kings would love another road win here, and then Perth and Melbourne. How are you looking at those 2 games today?
Yeah, look, I think Adelaide-Sydney's really hard. I mean, like I said before, I think everyone counts out Sydney until they win, and then they sort of say, oh, yeah, that makes sense. So they're very difficult to pick. I think I'd pick Adelaide because I think they're due. And as for the Tigers, well, any time you beat Perth is good, so I'll be hoping for that.
Now, I've heard that, is it Botti, Nagy, who's the chief basketball writer?
He's the chief,
and he's gone overseas. So,
I believe he has, yeah.
So he said, I've had enough. They've lost 8 in a row. I'm not interested anymore. You can stick the season. I'm going overseas, he said, Botti. Because he's a regular around. He knows everything that's happening at the 36ers. So we'll see what happens there. If they lose this one and that trend continues, whether there's going to be a coaching change, because Marty Clark, of course, Boomer's assistant, is under a bit of pressure at the moment. Mark at Cranberry on the way to the break just read that 80 tickets left of the Wildcats game today on Twitter. The Wildcats putting that out. So a full house almost for the Tigers and at the Wildcats. So 4 o'clock start. That's at local time, isn't it? So 7 o'clock. That'll be on tonight. So NBL TV, I think there's no Channel 10 coverage of that one. That'll be Adelaide-Sydney today, one at Channel 10.
The 2 o'clock game will be on Channel 10.
And NBL TV for Perth and Melbourne, around about 7 o'clock tonight. A quick break, we'll talk some WNBL on the other side.
Hi, I'm Adam Gibson from the Adelaide 36ers, and you're listening to In the Paint.
To 11 here on In the Paint. Brett Phillips and Paul Henderson from hoopdiary.com will tell you more about that during the morning as we take you through to 11 o'clock. The voice there of Carrie Graff, coach of the Canberra Capitals in the Women's National Basketball League, as we take a quick look at the results this weekend, and the news that Lauren Jackson isn't going to play for the remainder of this year, but she'll no doubt be back in the future. Canberra have had a double this weekend, of course, going down to Adelaide, 98-67. That was on Friday night. And last night, a trip in the West, they defeated the West Coast Waves 72-60. Bendigo 77-69 over the Sydney Uni Flames, going beautifully at the top of the table, the Bendigo Spirit. The All-Melbourne derby last night, it was the Rangers, once again the upper hand over Bulleen, 83-72. But we're going to catch up with Tony Jackson, CEO of Basketball ACT, regarding the news on Lauren Jackson and, of course, the Capitals finding themselves in unfamiliar territory, struggling near the bottom end of the table. Tony, good morning, and thanks for coming on.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Just on Carrie's comments there, and obviously we saw the article in the Herald Sun a couple of days ago regarding Lauren. I'm sure it's been frustrating for all concerned, no more so than Lauren Jackson, who just loves getting out there and competing as an elite athlete, and you would have loved to have had her this season, but obviously it's not going to be.
Yeah, you're right. Certainly way back as far as when we signed the deal back in about 15 months ago now, the whole momentum was built up that Lauren would play this season, and everyone was hugely excited about it. Carrie went about recruiting the team that obviously was going to play with and around Lauren, but when she came back from Seattle in October, there was clearly some signs that she wasn't 100% fit. But everyone was confident she would play at some stage. But disappointingly, after the surgery on Wednesday, they discovered quite a few problems, and it means she's out for 12 weeks.
And hearing the audio grab there suggesting that she can make a full recovery, I mean, how do you think a preliminary sort of schedule for her return to the court? Is it 12, 18 months, 6 months? What sort of idea is it?
Well, from the doctor's, the surgeon's point of view, he was very confident that he discovered everything, and he was also very confident there's no reason she would make a full recovery. He sort of gave a time frame of 12 weeks after full rehab, when she actually hits the court again, and for what team and what and where it is around the world that she does that. And I guess that's a decision that she has to make with her management. We've asked to be highly involved and consulted in that process, as well with Basketball Australia. So we can really look at what the best thing is for everybody involved, for basketball and the community greater.
Tony, you've been used to a lot of success up in Canberra, and in my years following the WNBL, Canberra have always been a great team to watch, an admired team. Carrie Graf up there with Tom Maher as, arguably the two best coaches of all time in women's basketball in this country, and of course coaching the Opals whilst also coaching the Capitals. I imagine it's tough being at the other end when you're not winning games, and of course pinched the win against West Coast last night. I think it lost 9 in a row leading into that game. So some unfamiliar territory for a team that's been used to a lot of success.
Yes, it is, and certainly for Carrie herself and personally, and quite a few of the team members as well. But yes, I was quite relieved and excited that they managed to clinch that win in Perth last night. I certainly didn't want the club's losing record streak on my mantle, nor did Carrie either, as that went back to about 1996 prior to her time here, and certainly prior to mine. But it has been a trying time for us. It's certainly been a challenge. One has probably brought out some of the best coaching I've seen from Carrie in how she's handled the events of the distraction the last three months, and certainly the group has had to take a whole different approach to how they do things.
And back on Lauren's situation, I mean, the cutthroat, win-at-all-costs sort of culture in pro sports is well known. With Seattle sort of allowing her to play through pain in the WNBA playoffs, how do you communicate with her other employers, for want of a better term, in regards to seeing her play at full strength with your club?
Well, that's something that now with a new management squad on board, we've asked to be much more involved in, and certainly something that I'll take on personally from our perspective, the Capitals and for the community of Canberra and the greater Australian basketball community, is that we'll open, and we already have opened up a dialogue with Seattle, and that's all she's contracted to do at the moment. But any other teams that come on board, we'll be having a quite an open dialogue with them about her condition, and we'll be probably insisting some more transparency about her, any medical records or tests or anything that's going on.
Tony, the deal that was done with Lauren, was it 3 years?
It was 3 playing years,
Yep.
stretched over a 5-year period.
Okay, and obviously outstanding support from the community up there in Canberra, who have been able to, I suppose, meet her demands to play here in the WNBL. One thing I found going up to watch the Canberra Capitals play that. Obviously, we've got the ACT Brumbies are up there, but the Capitals are a big draw card. I've been to many a game at the AIS Arena, and obviously you get radio coverage, you get some terrific coverage in the Canberra Times up there. I mean, obviously we're not used to the WNBL having a huge profile in our major publications down here, but Canberra certainly can't complain about coverage.
No, and you're right. Whether Lawrence here or not, and whether how the team's going, and as far as performance goes on and off on the court. Off the court, we experience great profile and great support from the whole community. In a Canberra, a city of 350,000, which are in a hugely saturated and competitive professional sports market, with now GWS in the market as well as the Brumbies and Raiders and the Cavalry and Canberra United, the women's soccer team that's doing well. It's a really, really tight market, but the Capitals are a bit of a fan favourite and certainly a favourite of the media, and we do get great support, but also we work very hard with the media to ensure that we do we give them everything we can as well. Yeah,
Lauren Jackson, is she still obviously coming to the games, Tony, and I imagine still sort of a draw card even though she's not playing? Because I know when she came back a few years ago, I'd be at venues where the autograph hunters would be 10 deep trying to get her signature, and she was fantastic with the kids. Is she still playing a role even though she's not playing?
Yeah, absolutely, yes. And she'll be back on Monday. She's just resting in Albury at the moment on the way back from surgery, but she'll be back on tomorrow, and she'll fulfil full duties with the team, except just obviously playing and training. And yes, even at the moment, there's still a strong lineup after each game to get her autograph, and we step a little desk for her on the baseline to do that. And she's still got a huge role around the community to do as well, and within Canberra, she's got quite a few appearances to do and quite a few community service activities too. So, and she's very, very great at fulfilling all those, and she's still a huge draw card in the community.
Yeah, she's a ripper in that regard. Always, I'm sure she'll be a sponsor's dream and a club's dream because she does meet all the demands that are put before her. Not a great season this year, but if I know the Capitals and their history, you'll fight back pretty quickly, and we look forward to hopefully seeing Lauren Jackson out on court at some point in the future. Tony, thank you.
Yep, thank you very much.
Tony Jackson, CEO of Basketball ACT, just giving you an update there on the Lauren Jackson situation. A couple of games in the WNBL today. Logan host Bendigo, so the Spirit flying the Victorian flag beautifully at 15 wins and 2 losses. Christy Howard are still playing outstanding basketball, and Logan at 6-10, so they're 3 games outside the top 4 and need to win at home desperately today. And Dandenong, we could be set for an all-Victorian grand final like we had last year. It might be Bendigo Dandenong, 14-3, and they host the Sydney Uni Flames today if you want to go down to Stud Road. 4 o'clock start just off the Monash Freeway there. Dandenong taking on the Sydney Uni Flames. Should be a great game. I'm going to come back and talk some NBA. 16-11 here on 11:16 SEN. Brett Phillips and Paul Henderson, hoopdiary.com if you want to log on. There's some good stuff on there, and I'm sure Paul would love a few more hits and people to get involved, because people can get on and join the sort of the blogs and have a read. And
yeah, we've got obviously the page itself, but just very quickly, I mean, we're on Facebook, just facebook.com/hoopdiary, and of course Twitter, same again, /hoopdiary, and you can check it all out.
Good old Twitter. I tell you what, I'm right into Twitter now. I'm even sending out tweets. It's ridiculous, but I tell you what, it is a very, very powerful medium, and I'm learning about it every single day. NBA, Paul, I'm going to hand it over to you because you've been watching, obviously, watch a fair bit of it, and I've been stuck in tennis mode over the last week. I noticed that the Lakers are going a little ordinary, so the honeymoon definitely over for Mike D and Tony. It was a controversial appointment. They wanted Phil Jackson, the fans, and they're well below 500 at the moment. Went down to this very good young team from Oklahoma who are one of the real title contenders.
Yeah, look, that was yesterday, absolutely, and they've lost 6 in a row now to some pretty tough competition. I mean, the Clippers, Denver, Houston, Spurs, Oklahoma City, they're all pretty tough teams, so it's a fairly rough run. But yeah, they are struggling massively. In the West in general, you've got Oklahoma, again, that we just spoke about. They're flying. They're 28-8, and they lead the West. And the Clippers, who sort of, for those that don't know, year after year after year after year, people give them as much of a hard time as people give Richmond a hard time here in Melbourne about finishing ninth. The Clippers are always the the poor relative of the Lakers, but they're 28-8 as well. And interestingly, they've won 8 of their past 10 and 20 of their past 22. So they are steamrolling the competition.
I've noticed there's quite a few presenters here on SEN. Kevin Hillier in particular, when I've listened to Kev give the scores in the afternoon on Sports Central, who are just loving the fact the Clippers are just rising above the Lakers, because you're right, it's a bit like Fremantle, who have been in the shadow of West Coast since they came in and just can't sort of have that sustained success. And gee, the Clippers are putting the Lakers to shame at the moment. We might have a quick listen to Steve Nash, and of course the loss yesterday to Oklahoma City, 116-101, and Steve Nash, of course, coming back in the last few weeks, missed a lot of the season with injury, the point guard, and this is what he had to say.
I think we showed some fight, but we just were a little overmatched. They're bigger than us almost at every position. Kevin got hot, and we couldn't contain him in the second quarter. As the game wore on, I just think the difference in depth and quality took over a little bit. I thought there were some things tonight that we did a little better. Our defensive transition was a little better. We just were a little overmatched, and I feel for the guys that we couldn't put up a little more of a fight, but you got to tip your hat. They played well.
Steve Nash talking here on In the Paint. Their loss yesterday. The Bucks took on the Pistons yesterday, Paul. 103 Detroit, Milwaukee 87, and of course they've had a change of coach. We'll have a listen to him in just a tick, but the Pistons too good.
Yeah, the Pistons are a weird team to pick. They either seem to win by 20 or get flogged by 30. Very, very unusual. If you're a gambler out there, you wouldn't go anywhere near them. But they took care of the Bucks in Milwaukee, so it's the Milwaukee's first loss with their new coach, actually.
Jim Boylan, let's have a quick listen to him regarding that opening game in charge and a loss to Detroit.
It's our third game in 4 nights. It seemed like our legs got a little heavy in the third quarter, and pretty evident by the fact that we missed a lot of open, good looks that we had throughout the game, pretty much for the entire first quarter. I know we had at least 10 that we missed that were, good open shots that we had been making. So our legs were a little heavy, and for us, like a lot of teams, when you're struggling offensively, it can bleed into other areas of your game, and it looked like that's what happened tonight.
Jim Boylan, the coach of Milwaukee. Let's run through some other news, Paul. Go right across the competition. I'll handball it over to you from here, because a lot of matches played yesterday, but just a bit of a general look at the NBA season and how it's travelling.
Yeah, look, it's been very entertaining so far. I mean, the season after season, every new season is everyone's pretty excited about it coming up. You've got the teams like LeBron James with his Miami Heat last year getting a title. But this season itself has actually been full of really exciting games. In the West, as we mentioned before, Oklahoma and the Clippers are sort of leading the way. But the San Antonio Spurs, who always seem to be considerably older than the rest of the competition, they're staying strong at 28-11. Andrew Bogut's Golden State Warriors are sort of sitting in 5th in the West, so they're well ahead of expectation. And then obviously other notables are Memphis, who are up and about, and of course the all-famous LA Lakers, who are actually 6 games below 500 at 15-21. So they've got a lot of work to do, and they've got a few injuries as well.
Can I ask you this question?
Sure.
Could they make 2 coaching changes if it dramatically goes pear-shaped?
Yeah, look, I'm not aware of any team that's done that, unless, of course, you count someone coming in as an interim coach. But for someone to be given the task, you're our guy, and fired after 5 games, another one brought in, you're definitely our guy this time. I don't know. How confident would the third guy feel?
Bring back Phil. I'll tell you, they'll be getting restless.
That would be great. Yeah,
I think Staples Centre.
He has been quoted as saying that he's not interested in coaching again, but I don't know. I think we've sort of heard that before, though.
Well, he's on one leg, Phil. They could drag him out just to sit in his big high chair there at the Staples Centre, but he doesn't want to fly, does he? He doesn't want to go to the away games.
I don't think he does. And I mean, he's got the big chair. He wanted quite a few different sort of provisions in his contract, a bit of team ownership as well. So I think it's a little bit complicated. But yeah, they need to do something. I don't know where they go from here, to be honest. But
wait and see.
Just a little update on the Aussies in the NBA. Andrew Bogut's still out injured with the ankle. He revealed not too long ago actually that his surgery was actually microfracture surgery as opposed to just a normal arthroscope. Okay. So he sort of put a lot of the media at rest because they were at him all the time. When you're back. So I'd sort of thought, I was on a couple of weeks ago, and thought maybe end of January, but I haven't heard any momentum. So he'll either pop up out of nowhere or it could be longer.
Yeah, fingers crossed he can just get out there and play, because when was the last time he played?
He did play this season very early, but they were really managing his minutes, trying to minimise how long he was out there, and it didn't work great. So while he did look comfortable, from my understanding, he was experiencing quite a lot of pain in the foot, so they decided to shelve him for a little while.
Okay.
Paddy Mills with the San Antonio Spurs he's getting mixed minutes, to be completely honest. Coach Popovich doesn't seem to be completely disgusted in him though, which is always a good sign with Coach Pop. Players can get on his bad side very quickly, and although Mills has played sort of low minutes, he does come in with a lot of energy, and he seems to have a distinct role as a bench player to do that. So he's averaging 5 points, almost a rebound and almost an assist per game, and he gets around about 11 minutes per contest. Recently it's been a bit less than that though. Okay.
All right, a couple of the Aussies. We'll come back after the break and have a chat about a couple more Aussies as well who are doing nice in college hoops. So right now, who wins the NBA title? I know it's a long, long way out, but from what you've seen.
I can't go past Miami. Yep. I think even though they've had a few little bumps in the road, I think they definitely have what it takes to repeat, but I think Oklahoma City will give them a lot bigger run for their money than last year. And
good to see the Charlotte Bobcats, mate, have just won a couple. But what they lose, about 18 straight?
Yeah, well, they had the worst record in league history last year, and ever.
MJ still in charge?
Yeah, to a degree, yeah. He's still on the sidelines in his bad jeans and bad jackets.
Just need to get out there, put the shorts and come back and play. I mean, they can't get any worse.
You're listening to In the Paint, talking basketball on 1116 SEN.
Welcome back as we come up to 11 o'clock. I just wanted to play you one quick comment from Steve Novak on the, of course, Knicks' slow start. They were taking on Chicago yesterday. The Bulls won 108 to 101. Let's have a quick listen.
Yeah, I mean, that's what hurts us, getting a slow start like that. Obviously, come the end of the game, it's a few-point game, and, it just feels so much worse because we get out to a slow start. So I think, we've talked about it, but we haven't, found a fix for it quite yet. But I think we'll change it. And, it's a long season, and there's going to be games like tonight, but we gotta find a way to come out and play better in the beginning.
The Knicks are going down overnight. Quick thought on that one?
Yeah, look, interesting little side note from that game. Steve Novak has a celebration where he does the championship belt across his stomach with his hands, and Nate Robinson, a considerably shorter player than the standard, mimicked it in New York, and there's a very interesting video on starting5.com.au. Go and check it out. He does take a swipe at Nate. All
right. Boomers big man Aaron Baines looks to be headed to the NBA. We're hearing reports after he apparently has signed with the San Antonio Spurs. He starred for Australia during the London Games, of course. He's been dominating over there in Europe, playing in Slovenia. So we'll follow that story with a bit of interest. And also Matthew Dellavedova, we spoke to him last week, just fresh off playing for St Mary's. We got him just off court with Jason Bennett from ESPN. And the coach of Matthew Dellavedova says the point guard is as impressive as any player he's coached, including Paddy Mills. So we wait now to see, Paul, whether he can take the next step and maybe play in the NBA.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on the first sort of look, you sort of think of with Delhi when he was quite young, you think, okay, you need to get bigger, need to get stronger, need to get a bit, sort of more experience under his belt, but he's certainly doing that. And I think Aaron Baines, that's the best place an international big man can go, is the San Antonio Spurs. Are very, they focus very heavily on international.
We'll wait and see. We've run out of time, but we do believe Rowan Short and the Melbourne Tigers have parted company. He was assistant coach there alongside DMAC to Chris Anstey in the last week, and we'll follow that story over the next week as well, because we can definitely tell you that he and the Tigers have parted company. We'll get to the bottom of that over the next little while. Thanks for coming in, Paul.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. Hoopdiary.com is the website you can log on to.